In the summer of 2018, the world was introduced to what appeared to be a supernatural phenomenon. A 13-year-old girl from a quiet village in northern England walked onto the most watched stage in America, visibly trembling, only to unleash a vocal performance that felt like a relic from a bygone era of rock and soul. From a reporter's perspective, the footage remains a masterclass in psychological masking. While the audience saw a shy child transforming into a legend, industry analysts now point to this as the beginning of the prodigy paradox. The persona was so effective that it became a cage. Courtney was no longer just a singer. She was a character expected to deliver that same shock value every time she stepped in front of a lens. The media fueled this by constantly comparing her to icons like Janis Joplin, effectively denying her the opportunity to grow into her own modern identity. For years, she was forced to lean into this 1960s aesthetic, creating a disconnect between the artist the public loved and the girl who was desperately trying to figure out who she actually was outside of a television format. This era was defined by massive commercial success that masked a growing personal exhaustion. The industry demanded she stay frozen in time as that shy, stuttering girl, even as her artistic ambitions began to outgrow the reality TV stage. Her performances were analyzed not for their musicality, but for the weirdness factor that kept the click rates high, a burden that few children are equipped to carry under the constant gaze of a global audience. But while the standing ovations continued and the viral numbers climbed into the billions, a far more dangerous storm was gathering in the dark corners of the internet that threatened to dismantle her entire future. Overnight fame in the digital age is rarely a one-sided victory. As our investigative look into her early archives shows, the golden buzzer didn't just open doors, it invited a relentless wave of online hostility that few adults could withstand. As a reporter covering the intersection of technology and entertainment, the vitriol aimed at a young teenager was unprecedented. Critics accused her of being a trained product, questioning the authenticity of her nervous disposition and her family's intentions. This wasn't merely social media noise. It was a sustained campaign that led to severe psychological isolation. Reports from that period suggest that the artist was frequently exposed to direct threats and a level of scrutiny that made public appearances terrifying. This digital backlash forced her into a shell, leading to long periods of silence that the public interpreted as a lack of momentum. In reality, she was navigating a crisis of safety and mental well-being that was carefully shielded from her fan base. The constant comparison to past greats meant she was never judged on her own merits, only on how well she could mimic the dead. The weight of tens of thousands of negative comments daily created a toxic environment, where the young singer began to associate her talent with the pain of public rejection. The very platform that gave her a voice had become the weapon used to silence it, creating a trauma that would eventually lead to a breaking point that the industry was not prepared to handle. This pressure eventually culminated in a secret crisis, so severe it threatened to end her career by her own hand in a way no one saw coming. By late 2024 and moving into early 2025, a chilling narrative began to emerge from sources close to the Hadwin camp. The burden of being the voice had become so heavy that the artist allegedly began to view her talent as a curse rather than a gift. Investigations into this period reveal that Courtney reached a state of profound distress, where she believed the only way to escape the global expectations was to physically remove the reason for them. There are credible, albeit tragic, accounts of a moment where she considered causing permanent damage to her vocal cords, effectively attempting to off her career before it could take any more from her. This wasn't a cry for attention, it was a desperate attempt at self-preservation. From a journalistic standpoint, this highlights the extreme fragility of child stars who are treated as commodities rather than human beings. She felt that her only value to the world was her ability to scream and growl on command, and in her desperation she wanted that value gone. The mental toll of being a viral sensation had stripped away her love for the art form itself. Fortunately, she found the support needed to pivot away from this dark path, but the scars of that vocal crisis remained as a permanent reminder of the industry's cost. It became the ultimate catalyst for her decision to tear down the walls of her professional life and seek a path that didn't involve her own destruction or the compromise of her sanity. To save herself, she realized she had to commit the ultimate industry sin, walking away from the powerful men who claimed they were the only ones who could make her a star. The 2026 landscape for Courtney Hadwin is defined by one thing: total autonomy. In a move that sent shockwaves through the corporate halls of Sony and Sicko, Courtney officially severed her ties with the Simon Cowell machine. This corporate divorce was not a quiet affair, it was the result of years of creative friction. Major labels wanted her to remain a covers artist, a safe, bankable nostalgia act that performed hits for a predictable audience. Courtney, however, had spent her hiatus developing a raw, jagged sound that didn't fit into a tidy pop box. Reporters covering the split noted that she was walking away from millions in guaranteed revenue to pursue a path of total independence. This was a rejection of the Cowell formula, a brave and some would say reckless move for an artist whose fame was rooted in that very system. She refused to be another reality show winner who faded into obscurity after a failed debut album of generic pop songs. She chose to forego the massive marketing budgets and the safety net of a major label to reclaim her identity as a songwriter. This era saw her effectively exposed to the harsh reality of the independent market, where every cent spent was her own and every failure rested on her shoulders. For the first time in her career, she was the one holding the pen and the microphone, dictating the terms of her own public image without a committee of executives telling her how to dress or behave. And that newfound freedom was about to manifest in a project that would redefine her as the rock monster for a new generation. Today, Courtney Hadwin is operating on a level that few expected. With the release of Little Miss Jagged in late 2025, she has transitioned from a television novelty to a credible independent powerhouse. As we follow her 2026 tour through the grittier, intimate venues of Europe, the change is palpable. She is no longer the trembling 13-year-old. She is a commanding presence who owns every inch of the stage. The music is aggressive, experimental and unapologetically loud, blending elements of 70s rock with modern alternative sensibilities. From a reporter's perspective, the rock monster isn't just a nickname. It's a shield she earned through years of struggle. She's navigating the challenges of self-funding, logistics, and grassroots marketing, proving that her talent wasn't a product of a TV show, but a genuine force of nature that can survive without corporate life support. Her fan base has evolved as well. The AGT viewers have been supplemented by a hardcore rock audience that respects the grit of her independent journey. The small, sweat-soaked clubs she plays now are a far cry from the Dolby Theater, but they offer a level of creative satisfaction that a television stage never could. She is no longer singing for judges, she is singing for herself. This era represents a significant shift in the music industry's power dynamics, where a former reality star can successfully pivot to a niche, high-credibility career without the backing of the corporate titans who discovered her. But as she stands on the precipice of a new legacy, the industry is forced to look in the mirror and face an uncomfortable truth about how it treats its young stars. As this special report concludes, the story of Courtney Hadwin is more than just a biography. It is a verdict on the modern entertainment machine. She stands in 2026 as a survivor of a system that often discards its young stars once the shock value wears off. Her journey from the timid girl with the supernatural voice to the independent rock monster serves as a blueprint for future talent who find themselves caught in the viral loop. She proved that while a viral moment can give you a career, only a fierce sense of self can give you a future. The verdict from industry insiders is that Courtney is no longer a prodigy, she is a pioneer who redefined the post-talent show career path. She successfully navigated the transition from subject to creator, a feat that very few in her position ever achieve. As she continues her journey, the world isn't just watching her for the high-pitched screams or the 60s covers, they are watching her for the narrative of resilience she represents. She has turned the curse of the golden buzzer into a weapon of independence, ensuring that the only person who controls her voice, her image, and her story is herself. In an industry built on smoke, mirrors, and temporary fame, Courtney Hadwin has become a rare, jagged piece of reality that refused to be broken by the machine. One thing is certain, she isn't finished making noise, and this time the world is listening because she finally has something of her own to say. The question remains, how many other talents are currently trapped in the same machine, waiting for their own chance to break free?